Good evening. Thank you very much. And welcome to Ponte Politique, this wonderful Sunday of the 14th of August, 2022. We're continuing with our interesting discussion of a talk about hair. Igama lami nguThando Lwethu Kadlanga, umntungwa uyengoya umalinge, undima unkumbuzo, uyanibulela ngokubakho kwethu nangokubakho kwenu kule platform yanamhlanje. If you are watching with us anywhere else, remember the first thing that you must do is you must follow us and click on YouTube at Ponte Politique and ensure that you are subscribing with us because we need you to follow us and to ensure that we continue to this encouraging and educational platform of Ponte Politique that is happening on Sundays. We are also there available on Twitter. There, if you are available on Twitter, make sure that you are watching with us or you are retweeting whatever that you are putting across on Twitter to ensure that we are all able to see and hear, get and learn from what the discussions that we're having. Also on Facebook, we're available. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, we are also available there, and on TikTok. Today, we are continuing with our discussion. Remember, last week we were speaking about, we had introduced what we were calling hashtag talk about hair, the aspect of talking about liberation women, liberation struggle women, because what we have picked up over the years in the culture of South African politics or in the political culture of South Africa, there has been this tendency of, I would say, let me put it like the tendency of erasing the voice of women. It has happened over the colonial and imperialist period. It has happened in the apartheid period, but now it continues to happen also in the neo-apartheid period post the 1994 elections, a period which we are referring to as the democratic process. So for the month of August, Ponte Politique has taken it upon itself to ensure that it is speaking about hair, and is speaking about hair all the time. So if you are interested in this conversation, if you've got any view, question, or input that you would like to make with our guest today, make sure that you send your input, your question, your comment, or anything else that you want to put across on any platform that we are on. We will be able to flight it. If you remember last week, one of the names that we had introduced, majority of people in South Africa might have not known about her, Elizabeth Mafeking. Elizabeth Mafeking was a member of the ANC in the 1950s. She was in PAL at the time, a very strong unionist and a very strong leader of the ANC Women's League. She was actually the national deputy president of the ANC. And unfortunately, over the years, the name of Mama Mafeking has not been extensively and put across into the popular discourse of South Africa. As a person who is aligned to an Africanist discourse, when I was doing my research, I actually found out that the only riot that is prominent in South Africa's liberation historiography is that of Polko Uprising of November 1962. You asked me the question, why do you think that is the prominent riot, the one of 1962, when actually there was a riot that was taking place in 1959 that was revolving around this phenomenal woman, Umama Elizabeth Mafeking? Well, that is not my responsibility, but Ponte Politique wants to ensure that we speak about these women of liberation, but also at the same time, we don't only speak about those that are in the past, we speak about also those that are also with us currently. So today, we've got a wonderful guest, the president of the ANC Women's League, a former minister in the South African cabinet, Umama Ubathabile Dlamini. Umama Ubathabile Dlamini, abanye they say, Gusisbata. So welcome, Mama Ubathabile, into Ponte Politique. Siyabulela for being part of this conversation. I think your mic is muted for one reason or the other.
Age.
Yeah.
Now
Now it's fine.
Thank you.
Iminyaka ihambile, kulungile.
Yes. Thank you very much for inviting me to your program, and let me greet your viewers and your listeners, and also thank you for having this program during Women's Month.
Enkosi kakhulu mama, nathi sibulela kakhulu ngovuma kwakho uba kunye nathi. As I have already said to the viewers at home, sikunye no mama uBathabile Dlamini. She is with us on this particular conversation. So, Mama Bathabile, majority of people they know Umama Bathabile, especially the young ones. They know Umama Bathabile from the media. They know Umama Bathabile from the so-called 9 wasted years. They know Umama Bathabile from how the media projects Umama Bathabile. But from the perspective of Umama Bathabile, who is Bathabile Dlamini? How did she get involved into the politics of this country, the politics of the ANC?
Thando, Mama Bathabile Dlamini is a rural girl who grew up in a rural area where though we were staying in a mission, but we were surrounded by farm areas. And so you understand all the suffering that was there. We used to fetch water from the river. We used to hoe wood for as energy. And the primary school was closer, but you would walk a long distance to a higher primary school, secondary school, high school, and even to the shops. It was a long distance from home to shops. And I stayed with a very vibrant grandmother who used to fight for her rights at all times. And then when I joined my parents in Pietermaritzburg, I already knew about our lives as Black people. That's yes, my short background.
Yeah. So already you are coming from a rural area, and you understood what it means to stand for yourself, because you get that from your mother. So what I'm picking up from this is that your grandmother, yes. So yes, you looked up to the one that is before you, and this now ties nicely to my next question that I want to bring in. There is a name that is making the rounds in South Africa's popular historiography, in South Africa's women liberation names, the name of Charlotte Maxeke. And I've written a critique against the Charlotte Maxeke narrative as a scholar, that I've made my critique about her. How does Charlotte Maxeke link up to the ANC Women's League, considering that, from my understanding, the website of the ANC Women's League was established in 1948, and Umama Maxeke transitioned to another level of life in 1939. Just help us to understand that that dynamic there.
The Bantu Women's League was formed in 1918. But even before that, Mam Charlotte Maxeke was already in the African National Congress. In 1912, she was part of the conference. You will remember that the conference had to be stopped for some time, and they discussed why Charlotte Maxeke was there at the conference. She was not alone. There were other women outside, like Obama, the whole Kuma, that supported her, wanted to see what was going to happen to her. And they waited there, and there was a conversation in the conference, and there was agreement that she should sit in the conference, but she did not have voting rights.
Okay.
And then even before that, she had assisted the leadership of the Native Congress to make representations about the lives of Black people and their sufferings to Parliament. They used to have standing committees. She had served in those standing committees. But because of patriarchy, when they go to the conference, I love Chief Albert Luthuli and Mam Nogutela Luthuli for the role she played in the struggle, for the speeches she prepared for Albert Luthuli, for raising funds for the establishment of Inanda. I love Chief I love Langalbalele Dube. I'm talking about Langalbalele Dube.
Okay.
For her role, for his role in the struggle. But listen to this. A woman that is present in the conference is asked, why are you here? And the very same conference elects Langalibalele as its first president in Mangaung. And he was not at the conference. But from there, the promulgation of the 1913 Land Act, Mam Charlotte started organizing marches against that promulgation of the 1913 Land Act. And what is outstanding about her is that she was able to bring together women from all walks of life, and she was fearless, Charlotte Maxeke. And that is why at some stage she organized a march to Cape Town. And one of the presidents, I think it was Khubusana, he was the president of the Cape. And then President Khubusana writes a letter to President Dube to say, hey, what are these women coming to do here? And President Dube says, the only thing I can assist you with is to ask to them that you join them and you become part of the delegation. But that they cannot come. These women are unstoppable. But you then talk about the Women's League in 1948.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, when Ma Charlotte became the president of the Bantu Women's League, she was already a probation officer. But when the leadership of the ANC decided that, okay, women can be full members of the ANC, they say Women's League have a correct meeting. And
Okay.
then in that meeting, they elect someone else. They do not elect a Machalot, and they say because she has a lot of work. And amongst the things that are mentioned is her work as a probation officer. You see,
Okay.
they were putting her because it was not easy to handle her. And when men cannot deal with a woman who understands the issues of gender and power relations, they pushed her away. So she was pushed away because she was a firebrand. And Machalot started with the issues, the non-racialism, before they were written down, that the ANC was a non-racial organization. She was already addressing meetings of organizations that were multiracial at the time. She was already dealing with the issue of ethnicity. And she had started her own working with others from Wilberforce University. They had started their own church where African people could worship together. So she was an illustrious woman. And I can imagine it was difficult for the leadership of the ANC to accept that there was this outstanding woman in the African National Congress. Actually, Charlotte is one of those women like Mam Winnie Madikizela Mandela, Mam Albertina Sisulu, who could have been the president of the African National Congress.
And this parting shot that you're putting across, we are going to interrogate it as we go further. So you're basically saying the political culture of suppressing women in the South African political discourse or political conversation is not something new, and and I'm glad that you are raising it without any fear and or favor. Those that are watching with us, we are in a conversation with Umama Obathabile Dlamini, the president of the ANC Women's League. If you are watching with us, we're available there on YouTube at Pont de Politique. You can send us your comment, your question, or your input. We will put it across to Mama Obathabile. And we see those that are also liking the video on Twitter, Songezo Boy, Sisopetse, and others. We are seeing you for watching with us. Thank you very much. And also, if you are watching on Facebook, we are there on Pont de Politique with Umama Obathabile Dlamini. Our hashtag is hashtag talk about her. And as we are discussing here with Mamba Tabile, she is saying, and her parting shot was was about when men are unable to control women, they tend to suffocate you. And it is for this reason that we are opening up these platforms for women to ensure that they are being part and parcel of the South African political culture. And we move, therefore, with this question, Mama Bathabile, most people are saying, Nina, in the ANC Women's League, you are cheerleaders of men. Every time when there's going to be a president that should be elected, you would rally rather behind that man, and you are not rallying behind the female candidate. How would you respond to this? What would you say to those critics? Because some people point out the issue of Umsholozi, President Jacob Zuma. Some people raise those questions, especially around that period. How would you respond to that particular issue, Mama Bathabile? siphinde ithi ndikuvule
I'll start
nantso-ke right
by saying, I have personally identified areas where we have missed opportunities. In Mangaung, we missed an opportunity. Remember where Comrade Kgalema decided to stand as a president, and there was a space, and we allowed male comrades to bring another male comrade. There we missed an opportunity. We could have had a woman deputy president that time. Secondly, you know that in Nasrec, we fought for a woman president. But because we are in a patriarchal society that treats women very unfairly, and sometimes they make you an object. The candidate we came up with was defined in terms of her partnership or marriage. And people forgot her excellent performance in government, and that she was a student leader with Comrade Steve Biko. People forgot that she was the chairperson of the AU, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Health, with a good struggling credentials. They forgot about all that. So we have come up with a woman candidate, but also politics evolve, and women grow gradually and understand issues of power and gender relations. We might not have won the position of the president in the last conference, but I have confidence in younger women because they are more liberated than us, and they understand that they are in the struggle, but they also have confidence in themselves. So if our generation does not produce the president of the ANC and the country, the coming generations are going to do that. But this is an indictment on the ANC, which is 113 years this year, and has never had a woman president, when it is a non-racial, non-sexist, democratic organization. So the ANC must also do soul searching. There is somewhere where we lack, but also women must search themselves. In the last 2 years, the membership of the ANC was 60% to 65% women. Yes, I agree, women are not homogeneous, we are heterogeneous. But why has it been difficult for us to have a woman president when there are more women in the ANC? But also, South Africa has 52% women, and we've not been able to fight for our dividend as women, because the democratic dividend should be 52% for women. And some of the reasons is because we are not able to translate this 52% into a reality. But I said we are evolving. And as we grow, we are going to attain what we want. But also, one of the things that was raised by Comrade Nomvula last week on Twitter Space is the issue of our constitution that embraces multi-party democracy.
Are you saying now the constitution of the country or the constitution of the ANC?
Of the country. Of the country.
Okay.
It embraces multi-party democracy. And if you are a patriarchal country and you have multi-party democracy, you are going to have organizations that are dominated by men, where women are always taken as followers, not as leaders, because this has been happening in all organizations. Where you see women as leaders, they are dealt with quietly by those organizations. Look at what has happened to Lindiwe. Look at what has been happening to Makosi. Look at Mampele Rampele and other women that are leading in their own right. They have been pushed out of positions because they can't deal with negotiations, and because men think that they must always lead. And also, we are part of the patriarchal system. We grew up in a patriarchal society, and we have to do a lot of work to try and ensure that when we talk about the democratization of our country, the issues of women are not left out. They become part of a democratization, so that women can be part of leaders of the country.
So you're basically at the same time you're raising an issue of a societal problem, but also at the same time a political, cultural problem. But what I've also loved with what you've said, you have also accepted some element of saying we have missed the opportunities, and I love that, because a good leader must always acknowledge when they have misstepped on, when they have done wrong. We've got some few comments and questions that people would like to pose to you, Mama Thabile, and I'm going to run them through to you. I've got Usis Muhau Peku. She is raising the question and she's asking, the bigger question is, why do women prefer to join factions than often work against them? Are women also not gatekeepers of patriarchy? So this is a two-folded type of a question. Why do women prefer to join factions instead of working against them? But also, isn't that process also a cause of saying that women are becoming, therefore, gatekeepers of the particular patriarchy that you are raising, ma'am? You can make a comment on that question.
Okay, let me thank Mohau, Sis Mohau, Ambassador Mohau.
Ambassador, yes. And I think the our guest has just lost connection there for one reason or the other. Let's just wait a bit. Immediately when she comes back in, we will flight through those questions and those comments. I see your questions, I see your comments, and I see all those people that are putting on and sending us some love. And also there are those that are saying greetings to Umama Ubathabile and those that are liking the conversation. Let's just give each other a few minutes. I think she has lost connection one way or the other. But what we are discussing, and what was very interesting for me in the previous point that Mamba Tabile was raising was that they, as women in the ANC, have missed an opportunity. And this reason of missing this opportunity could be as a result of many things. She points out that the issue of society, she points out the issue of political culture, she points out the issue of also that women, those that were maybe their age and older ones, might have not understood the power dynamics of the gender power dynamics. So I think there are various things that she has been raising, and they are very interesting. Let's just wait and see if she is going to be coming back with us. If you are watching, make sure that you send those comments. Make sure that you send those questions. This is supposed to be an interactive conversation. And Umama Tabile, we seem to have lost her on that. So Umama Tabile would be coming back and answering those questions. So if you are watching with us, we are on Pont de Politique on YouTube. Make sure that here is it, yeah. Make sure that you subscribe, tell your family and your friends, and that your friends must tell their friends, that they tell their friends that Pont de Politique is on. If you are also available on Twitter, there we are. We are on Twitter. We are also Facebook and on Instagram. So yeah, Umama Tabile is reconnecting, and she will be further engaging with us on this matter. Mama, we had disconnected. We're not sure what might have transpired, but we understand technology.
They said it's hot. The phone is hot.
Oh, okay. No. Is it right, Manj?
I hope so.
All right. I cause a charging. Maybe that might be the reason.
Keep it charging.
All right. No. Siyabonga ke ma'am. Kukho la question ka Ambassador Pheko that she was posing.
Yes, I agree with her to some extent. Let me just be open and not hide these things. The present leadership of the Women's League has been disbanded, and we were not demanding to stay in power. We're supposed to prepare for the national conference, and we have not had a conference because of COVID-19.
Okay.
And because there is fear that we're not going to support some of the leaders, we were disbanded. And unfortunately, some were had by a waiter,
okay,
discussing this matter with the leadership, and that waiter is a member of the ANC.
Wow.
She came to tell us that, look, you're going to be disbanded because these women were sitting with the leadership. But also, the past president of the Women's League convened a meeting, and they planned about how they were going to destabilize the NEC of the ANC Women's League, and recommend that we get disbanded. That was led by women. And why? Because they want a particular leader to be elected at conference. So already people are counting people that will vote for them. And people that must be removed are women. And that was done by women to other women. And they said we had differences. We were fighting. And for God's sake, even the ANC is fighting. So because you can't fight every day. We have sometimes to keep quiet, look at them, continue with what they are doing. But we are going to report to women. We won't keep quiet about this, and it's going to remain a part of their history that they disbanded us because we've been saying we want a woman president.
So basically,
women become gatekeepers
no.
sometimes.
No, I hear you. And Ambassador Pheko, yeah, and Ambassador Pheko adds, and she makes another interesting input. She says some of the things that you are raising, they cut across women's movement. It's not like the ANC alone. We've got another question, Mama Batabile, for you as well. It's a little bit long, but I'll try and summarize it. Do you think that the fact that women were barred from taking membership in the Native Congress in 1912, remember the story of Maxeke, and draw back for women, it took years for women to be allowed in the membership. If Maxeke passed on still fighting for the membership into the ANC, don't you think this is the culture? Don't you think this is the reasoning, or this is the culture that has been embedded on women to constantly elect men to be part and parcel of leadership, even though women are a majority?
But Mama gave us direction. It's just that I think we take time to learn. Mama formed a women's council after leaving, and she did not leave. Actually, she was not elected, so she formed a women's council of all women, and women have performed very well if they are together. Umama formed an organization of church women, women from political organizations, traditional leaders, rural women, professionals, women from all walks of life, women from the townships. So they were many, and they did very well as those women. And it was even before the formal defiance campaign that women of South Africa started working together. But there is this thing that is always created, and that has to draw us back to our political organizations. When we were also during the period 1956, it was women from all walks of life. They started in 1954 with the Women's Charter, and formed the Federation of South African Women. And then they prepared for a march in 1956, the biggest march that ever happened in South Africa. Actually, we are told the leadership was very jittery. They did not believe in women. And one of the people that believed in us was Utatu Sul, who said, no, allow women to continue with their work. Others were saying, no, you are going to embarrass us. But that was the product of women from various formations. And also, during the negotiations, we must remember that women were not part of the negotiations. But we came together, and the coalition was formed. And that is how women were represented there. But because the leadership that was there understood the issues of women. When other parties said they did not have women and wanted to bring men, the women said, no, if you don't have women representatives, don't bring men into the seat of a woman. If you don't have a woman, leave your seat empty. And then we did very well, dealt even with the issues of violence that was rampant, and that force that was there. We dealt with those issues together. And then when we went to parliament, we then went back to our cocoons. And we feel better when we are in our political organizations, because maybe of ideological beliefs, but we've not won as women in these in our different formations. So we need to discuss as South African women, how do we take the process forward? Because if you also come out as an individual, you get destroyed. So how do we level the playing field for women to occupy senior positions? And it's very important for women to occupy senior positions, because where women are leaders, there is always a difference.
And we've seen over the years that men have been in charge and they have been messing up. It's really high time that omama mabakhokele. And uyabuza ke uambassador, because you are talking about the playing field. I've got a problem with only about taking leadership positions. I will engage on that a little bit later. But uyabuza Ambassador Pheko again, is it not time that Mama Tabile, that there is a revival of the coalition of women who can fight collectively to create that space that elevates women? Not only, this is my critique now against you, not only to take over the leadership positions, but also to elevate them to a position where they can decide. Because there's a critique and some political analysts who are saying there's a premier in KZN, she's a female, but next to her, there is a head of business who is a premier. Now, what would you say in such a dynamic? Because now ingati umama upremier uzocontrola ba abe nguhamti damti okhwelela udongeni, emva koko uzawuthi zamboko awe phansi abe lo mntu who has been making the decisions, who is a man, by the way, is not there. Some critics are saying that. So how do you navigate this to create a coalition that protects women, not only to be placed at the top, but to elevate them to become women of decision making and stature?
When we talk about taking leadership positions, we're also talking about decision making. Hey, the issue, Comrade Nomusa, I think we need it's an issue that we need to discuss, no, Comrade Nomusa. It does not start with her being appointed as the premier, but it starts with us, because it is women here in KZN that came up with the name of Comrade Nomusa, and they were supposed to lobby for her very strongly, because we know how vicious patriarchy is. And thirdly, there at the conference, the comrades were supposed to at least break ranks and just support her for nomination, give her an opportunity. But the way the organization is structured, much as we are many, starting with delegates from branches.
Mm.
And branches taking decisions on issues of leadership. And there is a block voting.
Okay.
So block voting, you follow the mandate from home. You cannot break ranks. And those are all the issues we have to look into. They are many, and we must try and grapple with. Because if we can come together, I'm definitely sure we can come up with solutions. The problem is when we come up with suggestions and not ensure that they come to fruition. For instance, when people were now negotiating very strongly towards the conference, you also have to be there. What I learned in Nasrec was, when you are close to the conference, the atmosphere changes. There are quick and very fast and violent negotiations that you lose as women. And that is where you have to take part. And that is where you have to say, if you want us to vote for so and so, you must also vote for so and so. But one other area we must look into, for instance, the Women's League goes to the conference as a province, but a province with lesser delegates than those of provinces, because we become a part of the 10% that goes to conference. So if we are 10%, we are just a few. The bloc that is going to vote for the ANC, that has a mandate from ANC structures, is much higher than our numbers as the delegation of the ANC Women's League. So, which also makes it important for us to start discussing our issues from the lowest level and ensure that we instill the correct culture of having trust amongst ourselves as women, so that we also raise names of women when it's time to nominate. The nomination process has been opened in the ANC. So women must start nominating other women. So as to ensure that we have women that are going to represent us there and raise issues of women, because you are not just suggested to be a high flyer or to focus on self-aggrandizement. You are nominated and elected to change the quality of lives of the people, to deal with the program of action. The implementation of the program of action is very important. To say no when you don't support something, to be able to express yourself in meetings. The one other problem with us is that we want people to speak a big English and define what, for instance, discrimination is to us, when our lives are about discriminated. About discrimination. We are being discriminated against on a daily basis, but we want people who speak a good English to
about
that for us.
Just hold that discrimination. I'm holding. There's a question of discrimination. That discrimination. There's a question that I want us to raise on the issue of discrimination. Viewers at home, we are with Ubathabile Dlamini, I know her as the president of the ANC Women's League. We have been informed that the ANC Women's League has been disbanded. So, former minister in the presidency, former minister of social development in South Africa. She has been making a very great conversation with us. I'm going to take these two questions that are coming from the floor, and I would like you to address both of them, Mama, when you can. And then I would engage you on the issue of ANC Women's League. I hope there's somebody who is asking the question that relates to Women's League here. Ubandile, usisibandile ngidi uthi, understanding that the oppression of women in South Africa is threefold. That is, it is intersectional of race, class, and gender. So, Umama, how would they envisage the women coalition work to address this dynamic, considering that it consists mainly of historical events that got us where we are today? So most of those historic events, you spoke about them. So if there would be that coalition, how would we then work around those that intersectional approach of race, class, and gender? Note that one. And then what does Meher Dlamini think can be done by women in power in the ruling party, which is the ANC, to fast track the return of the land to its rightful owners? They are in parliament and are a majority. Toiling women have put their hopes on them. So there's two questions here. The first one, how does the coalition work around the intersectional aspect? The second part is, how can the women in the ruling party fast track the issue of the land? I will flight them so that you can constantly refer to them to make a proper and informed answer.
Let me start with the issue of the land. I think what we did last year as the ANC Women's League was to make a contribution into the bill that deals with the issues of the land. And that bill is in, those amendments are in the website.
Okay.
And we thought that was important because women work the land. Women need places to live. And we all know that the hereditary structure of the land in our homes has always been male. It does not count on you, for instance, when you are not married or when you are divorced. So the land has always been for men. So if you are a woman, you don't own land. So those are things that pushed us to deal with the issues of the land. So we believe we need more land so that as women, we can build also on the land. We need the land as property. We also need the land. We can be in the business of food security. We can also use the land as a collateral. So there are many reasons why women need access to land. And again, here, if you talk about economic development, you cannot talk about economic development without access to land. So for that is very important to us. And we continue to fight in the National Executive, and we are going to continue fighting as we are going to conference, and we understand decisions that were taken at conference, but it must be clear here who the owner of the land is. And that for me is a very key question. And also the dynamics of the capital or white monopoly capital wanting to dominate our land must be dealt with. Because I think right now what is on the table is that dynamic. It must be dealt with. We must not treat this issue with a kid's glove, because it is in itself a mobilizer for the people.
For the people on its own, yes.
Yes. And we must not behave as if our land was bought. It was not bought. It was stolen.
Yeah, no, it was.
So
it was.
Those are the issues that we must discuss. The issue that came just sprang up, that I had to go to those that understand law and English. The issues that we had to fight about in Parliament, issues of nil compensation. Those are things that make us look very clumsy and dishonest in the
it's like you're running around with
yes.
What you would call, you are running around from answering apho kufele khona ithole.
Absolutely. They make us look dishonest, and they are really embarrassing. So we need to all have an understanding. Ukuthi, land is the wealth of the indigenous people, and it must be treated that way.
Even women in Parliament, in the majority party, they must engage it on that basis. Is that what you are saying?
Yes. And I know in the National Executive Committee, there are those that we don't agree with, but that have said no, but with the issue of the land, we must deal with it differently. This land belongs to Africans. And we must try and ensure that we give the people what belongs to them. And small issues of saying what are people going to do with the land. People are going to learn during the process, but also Tina, as women, we know how to use the land, because we are the ones that focus on the issues of food security.
As omama
women.
As omama besizwe, yes. Enkosi for this, Mama. We are running a little bit out of time. We had scheduled up until 7, but I just want to make sure that I don't delay you further. You don't mind us having the conversation further? You don't mind?
Yes, let's have it. I think most women, let me speak for the Alliance and other progressive organizations that were in the coalition. They understood that women, more particularly Black women, faced triple oppression. Were oppressed as women. We are oppressed as Black women, and we are oppressed as working class women. And so everyone is clear on that issue. So even the Charter for Effective Equality that came from the coalition that was presented to Madiba is very clear on the three issues of race, class, and gender. And we know that there are many problems we are facing today because we are Black women. We know that we grew up poor because we are Black. We know that there is inequality because we are Black. We know that we cannot find jobs because we are Black. So the issue of race is very clear. Even those that join us from other racial groups understand the issues of non-racialism. And they understand that, yes, women are motive forces, but women that stand to benefit from the struggle are more Black women, because they've been oppressed for a long time. We know,
and that is a historical problem.
It's a historical problem. And then let's take a issue of working class. We know that our work or the free labor is not put in the GDP because it's done by women, and more particularly Black women that stay at home, do the work, but it is not counted in the GDP. Those are issues we understand. We understand that there is the issues of equal pay for the value of equal work are not yet here. They are not legislated. And people that are paid peanuts are Black workers.
Black women.
We know, yes, Black women. And we know that because you are a woman, you get pregnant, and the labor force sector is not prepared for a woman to give birth and then take leave and go to work. There is no ECD at the workplace.
Okay.
And that is why some young women have taken a conscious decision that they are not going to have children, because they know that whilst you are on leave, there is going to be a training at the workplace. And when you come back, men that were behind you are now on top of the ladder.
So the system itself is designed to oppress the women.
Yes, to oppress women, more particularly Black women.
And the problem is the system, and therefore the system must be dealt with. It brings us therefore to a next input that Ambassador Pheko is talking about. She's talking about a structural or a systematic problem. She says, into your point that you were raising earlier about your delegation status in the Congress or in the conferences of the ANC, if 10% is the extent of representation of the ANC Women's League at the conference, this is a structural issue. Has there been an effort to change this in the constitution of the ANC? And all parties, by the way, can learn and benefit from this. So has there been an effort to change this structural issue, this systematic problem, ma'am?
I think it's one of the issues that we've looked into and agreed that it's creating problems. And I take Ambassador Pheko's point. It's a valid point that we must raise in the ANC. It's a good point. I agree fully with her.
Therefore, you are saying in agreement that issues that are structural, they must be dealt with structurally so that they do not continue to create a problem. I hope before I pinned Buyele Koba Bushushu. We are almost there. We are almost there. You were in the you were in the ministry. You were in the because this question is harboring on my head. It's important. And today on the news, discrimination. We're back to that discrimination on the newspapers of today. We've heard that the Minister of Finance has been charged, or somebody opened a claim. A woman from a spa in Limpopo opened a claim and a case against him, the Minister of Finance, Enoch Godongwana, that he sexually assaulted her. And the response of the minister in the official statement says, I quote, I deny this allegation. I could have never sexually assaulted her because at the time when I was at the spa, I was with my wife, close quote. Now, does that mean just because the minister was with his wife, the wife, he could have not discriminated against or sexually assaulted this woman? Does that imply that therefore there are many questions that are coming through with this victimization? Does the minister even understand what it means to be discriminated against from the perspective of women? Is this the political culture that is a problem in South Africa, where men, just because the wife is here, is not saying anything, you can bump and hold the buttocks of another woman just because you can? What would be your input in understanding this problematic dynamic of discrimination and big English? We come back now to that question, Bente Masibambe.
We are knowing, not closely, we are not very close, but knowing the wife of the minister, he cannot do that thing in her presence.
Okay.
There is, I think, there is the truth that is hidden from all of us.
All of the.
It will come up as time goes on. I don't want to cast aspersions, but the position of the Women's League, which is very weak actually, is that we support the victim. As soon as you hear about the issue of violence, we support the victim. And the ANC has policy on sexual harassment. So I hope we'll see that policy working.
Being implemented.
Yes, and we are led, we have the leadership of the Women's League that has been elected. What we used to do, Tina, we would call the comrade consent, talk to him, and call the victim. Because I must also be open and honest. Women do not trust us most of the time. So they would not open up on such issues. But also because the leadership of the ANC is men. They would not handle such issues the way you would want to see them handling the issues. So let's give the leadership of the Women's League the opportunity to act on this matter, and let them give them a space to talk to the minister and the victim. But the long-standing position of the Women's League is that we support the victim.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. My last question is, when you were a minister of social development, there was a statement that made the round of the Smolanyana skeletons in the ANC. Now, from your understanding, with the interest of hindsight, as the minister of either social developments or the Ministry of Women in the presidency, with the understanding of Smolanyana skeletons, what do you think you could have done better with the help of hindsight now that you are in the position that you are in?
I think understanding the system is very important. You know, I sometimes think about some of my encounters. I remember there was a cabinet meeting where we made a presentation of pension payouts, and we were going to start a small health shops at a local level that were going to be owned by women and the youth, where people were going to get their pensions from. And secondly, where people were going to be buying, so that the economy could take rounds in communities, stay for some time within communities. And another woman said, why are people going to be forced to buy in townships? And then I think you must understand the people you work with, their determination for what you are fighting for. You should not just take for granted that, because we are comrades, we want economic freedom in our lifetime. All of us, we want Black entrepreneurs, we want women cooperatives. No, that's not it. It should never be taken for granted. You must know the people you work with, understand their agenda before you work very hard, just move forward, because they are going to try by all means to block you. Ask me today if I can go back there. It's not my wish. Up until I understand that we are all committed to the liberation of the people of South Africa, to changing the quality of lives of the people. Once you get that assurity, you can continue working with people and then grapple with issues, the real issues on the ground, not with people that play men instead of playing the ball.
Hiding their Smolanyana skeletons in the process. Mama, what would be your advice to the nominations that are taking place to the ANC Youth League? I see the forerunners are young women. What would you advise them?
that they must work together. It doesn't matter whether they have differences, but they are going to win if they work together. If they work as groups, and what Ambassador Pheko said, that our weakness is that we want to lock ourselves into factions of men, and only men end up winning. And we must congratulate Gauteng women for being able to transcend above a faction.
Yeah,
to elect 3 women as officials. They worked hard for this, and they kept reminding themselves that, oh, okay, now we've been drawn into these factions because men went and recruited women into their groups, because when they look at us, they look at votes, they look at objects, they don't look at the power we have.
They look at pawns. They look at pawns.
Yes.
Yeah. Mama Tabile, thank you very much for having a conversation with us. And I loved every moment of it. And I would love to have you in any other day. I know that we can't speak everything, but I was very, very, very honored to be with you. Thank you very much, Mama. Siyabulela kakhulu kakhulu. Give us your last words and your punching word. I'm not going to ask anything. You can give us just your parting shot.
My parting shot is that we must begin to have confidence in other women, and we must support other women, and older women must have patience. Try embrace younger women, because if we do not embrace younger women, we will not have firebrands that will bring about a change in the organization. But also, young women must not insult older women, because you need experience. You need someone who's going to harness your energies, and then try and ensure that you give a proper leadership, and that women have never had a problem of transferring power to younger women. So let's bring young women into the ranks of our organizations, so that they bring about a change, and they bring that vibrancy and a radicalism within our organizations. Thank you.
Enkosi mama, siyabulela kakhulu, usibulelele nalapho endlini for taking your time, and I'm sorry that your phone had to be the situation that it was. Thank you very much to Umama Tabile Dlamini for being with us and having a wonderful and I'm sure you have learned something from that conversation with Umama Tabile Dlamini. Remember, we had also those that were making comments, those that were making inputs, those that were putting across, and those that were liking, and those that were actually saying that what she's saying is true. So we are very much grateful for Umama Tabile Dlamini for being with us. And we are also thankful to everybody else who was watching with us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, including on YouTube. Continue to watch with us. We appreciate you. We love you. And Umtungwa, uyengwa malinge, undima unkumbuzo, uti, we will meet again next week for another wonderful episode. Bye-bye.